Welcome, everyone, to episode 8 of the Intune Show hosted by the Interfaith Temple. I'm Reverend Dr. Samora, and I am the director of the temple, and it's really my privilege to be here with you today. I have Reverend Dr. Eve Hurwitz. She's also known as Maven Eve. She's a dear friend of mine, and she's part of the Interfaith Temple team as what would you call, what is your title?
Minister of Technology.
Minister of Technology. She's also currently in our chaplaincy program at the new seminary, as well as a graduate of the new seminary. What year did you graduate?
2021.
Yes, and it was right in the middle of lockdown. All sorts of things were going on when I met Maven Eve, and it's just been a wonderful journey. So I'm going to tell you a bit about her. She's an interfaith minister with a mission to help humans acknowledge all their parts, mind, body, and soul, to achieve unconditional love for self and others. And Eve is a combat veteran, a nonprofit executive, music teacher, and business owner. After a difficult divorce involving three families and five children, she had quite the reckoning. She struggled with the pain she felt she had caused herself and others on a personal level, and the system that she was helping to perpetuate on a larger level. In 2019, she intensified her Reiki practice, returned to her deep breathing roots as a singer, went full time as a nonprofit executive, and started in the seminary. Eve is in a continual process of deep healing for herself and others every single day by tapping into the unseen energy that connects us all, using the breath as a tool. And Eve believes that unconditional love for ourselves and others will be the salvation of humanity. So Eve is the founder and president of what they call the Order of Love. And she's the executive director of Mo Foundation and the Minister of Technology for the Interfaith Temple. So I am so happy to welcome you here today, and I'm excited to have an invigorating conversation since we always have them anyway. So this time we have an audience. This time we have people here to witness the beauty of what has come through the seminary, the relationships that it has developed, the friendships that it has formed, like lifetime friendships. And that's part of why I have you here, why I felt that it would be such a great thing for people to see who's behind the scenes, like who is, with the temple itself and, what our vision is, what we aim to do, and our identity as ministers out here in a very, strange time, I would say. So to start off, what I would love for you to share, just, whatever's on your heart at this time, but many of us are going through our own personal struggles, but then there's the big picture of what's happening in the world politically as well as, personally and spiritually. So what would you say has been, your experience at this time and what's happening for you?
Well, I think there's a real culture. First of all, very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and what a beautiful intro. I think there's a culture of fear right now, and it's really easy to get caught up in that. And the mindfulness practice that I think we all really need is so crucial to not living in that fear. Because we live in that fear, we get our amygdala hijacked all the time, and the anxiety that's always there. That's why the breathing is so important to me. And I've really been trying to help people understand how the breath and coming to the present, paying attention to their breath and to their body can help get out of the craziness of the mind, because our minds are, they get hijacked by all of the fear stuff going around now. And also, I believe that the breath is going to help people see the interconnectedness of everything. We are all connected, and all of the violence and the hatred and the vitriol that's kind of around the globe is going to go away the more people see how interconnected we all are. And when we hurt other people, we're hurting ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's no question. And I think that, at this time, I feel like we're all just being, yanked to show up in a way that's really needed in the world. And I know you've done a lot, just on your own with, helping others. And maybe you could tell us a bit how did things develop after you graduated in 2021? What have you been doing with your ministry?
So, in addition to supporting the Interfaith Temple in the different events and roundtables that we have and services, of course, the Order of Love has come about because I keep coming across people who have this negative self-talk, just the worst. They're worse themselves than anybody else in their life, you know? And we really need to be our own best friend and we need to really love ourselves. And so when I started seeing that, I started realizing we really need to help people love themselves. How can we do this? And the reason that we're called the Order of Love is that our board is comprised entirely of combat veterans and military families. And it came about because we all have seen the underbelly of humanity. We have seen what humans do to each other in their darkest hours. And we said, you know, we have received orders that no human being should have to carry out. Orders involving death to other people, orders involving, you know, harm to other humans, and at a minimum, harm to our own families, the things that we've had to do in our service. And we said, there's a new order. We are now giving the orders, and the order is love, and it is the order of love. So the idea is to take our experience, seeing what we've seen in war and in the military, and show people the other side of it. Show people what love looks like for themselves, for other people, and hold up a mirror and be like, no, look at the amazing person you are. Look at what you can give to your community and help people find their own gifts. So I've really been doing a lot of that. I also went back to my musical roots. I've been singing forever, but I started teaching children primarily. And I'm teaching voice, piano, and theory to children. And children, you know, Whitney Houston said it best, the children are our future, and it's true. And really being able to connect with kids and my own kids, I have 5 kids, and really focusing on helping them love themselves, helping them understand the interconnectedness of all, because maybe there's adults who might not get there, but I hope the kids will.
There's no question. I myself was blessed to have 12 years working with at-risk youth as a music teacher, specifically with learning harmony and, boys especially. Like there was a boys program, and I just remember seeing them light up when they would get harmony right and like hearing each other, and they were tough on the outside, came inside, started singing, and it's a beautiful thing to nurture that inner child. And I think when children are able to do that with us, the people that are guiding them also healing our inner child at the same time. And it just resonates out to the whole world when we can take care of our kids. And it's a beautiful thing that you're doing. And music will heal the world. I'm convinced of it.
Yes,
I'm
amen.
convinced. Yes, the best music has come out of the darkest times in history. And I think what you're doing is really, really important. And it's great that it's aligned with so much of who I am and just what we're doing together.
Thank
So,
you.
in terms of like your spiritual path, I know it's been quite adventurous for you. I would love to know a bit about your history, just in terms of like, what brought you to the seminary, and where did it begin in terms of when you were younger?
That's a great question. So, I was raised Jewish, and I was a conservative Jew, which, if people aren't familiar, that's kind of like the middle ground of Judaism. Like Orthodox and Hasidic Jews are a little more, they keep to the Torah a little more, they keep the traditions a little stricter, their services are a little longer, have more Hebrew. Reform is kind of the a little more relaxed, not as much of the rules and the Torah, and more English in the services. And conservative is kind of in the middle ground. You'll find people in conservative Judaism who keep kosher, who are more strict. You'll find people who don't. So it's kind of a more of a melange of different Jewish traditions. And I was raised in the conservative Jewish tradition and found myself continually kind of dabbling in so a cantor, and for anybody who might not know, a cantor in a synagogue is the person who does most of the singing and chanting. There's a rabbi who does most of the speaking, and then a cantor who does most of the singing and chanting. And I really thought about becoming a cantor, and I was a cantorial assistant at a synagogue for a while, and I was even in the running to be an executive director of a synagogue for a while. And it just wasn't quite clicking for me. And I wasn't really sure why, and we'll get to that. And I just felt like I'm supposed to be doing something else, and I wasn't sure what. And I have always loved everybody. I've always loved all people, and people always thought I was kind of weird for that. Like, how do you really like everybody? And I'm like, and my gift I have figured out is that I can immediately connect with somebody's highest self, even if they don't see it themselves. I can feel it. I can see what they're capable of, and I love them. I can love them in that moment. And it was another day where somebody was calling me weird for liking a lot of people. And the thought literally just came to me like, what if I was clergy? Clergy are supposed to love humans. That's what we're supposed to do, right? And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll check out seminary. And I right away, this was the wildest thing. So Dr. J, who was the director of the seminary when I started, I did not Google search that long. I really did not do a whole lot of research. It was the first thing that I found when I looked up seminary because I knew that I wanted something different. I didn't think I wanted to go entirely the Jewish path, and I was not familiar at all with Christian traditions as clergy, so I knew I wasn't going to go that path. And I'm like, I wonder if there's some kind of interfaith solution out there. And like I Googled like Interfaith Seminary, and bam, the new seminary for interfaith studies popped up. And I just got this feeling, you know, that feeling that you get when you're like, oh my God, like my body was kind of, and I'm just, and my heart was pounding. And I'm like, and I called right away. I called the number. And I'm not even a big phone person. Phone conversations are maybe when I was like 15, but now I'm like, we can text, we can email. And so I don't, but something in me said, make this call. And I called, and miraculously, Dr. J, I don't remember if Dr. J answered or got right back to me, but I spoke to him within an hour of calling. And I just knew. And the wheel started going, and I started like as soon as I could after that. And even from the first class, I was like, this is right. This is where I belong. This makes sense. It felt so holistic. It felt like, oh, we really do learn about so many different traditions, and there's people from different backgrounds in this class with me. And it just felt right. And I just realized I skipped a part that is kind of pretty crucial. In the middle of this going like, I love everybody, I was not loving myself. And that was like the piece that was missing. And I was really beating myself up a lot for my divorce, for a long time I didn't use my powers for good, did things that I wasn't proud of. And I kept reliving that over and over again all the time. And a friend of mine was over one day when I was just in one of those states where I'm just like, I'm horrible. Why did I do what I did? And regret, shame, self-recrimination, self-doubt, all of those things. And I'm not sure, I have a whole story here about this. Should I get into the story now? So we were in my house in Maryland, and she said, come here. And she took me to my sliding doors, looked out over my backyard. And she said, pick a tree. I want you to go talk to a tree. Now, I was doing Reiki, so like I was definitely down with like energetic exchanges, but I hadn't done it with trees, only people. And sometimes my veteran, hardened, grizzly self comes in, and I'm like, I'm not talking to trees. What do you know, And she's like, just trust me. Just pick a tree, go put your hands on the tree, and just see what happens. And I have a sermon about this that I'll send to you after, but I said, okay. And I kind of just, this one tree was just calling to me, and I put my hands on that tree. And at first nothing happened. And I was about to take my hands off of it and say, nothing's happening. And then whoosh, I was just transported to a place where I didn't know where I was. It was kind of, there was like a big nothing. And I just got messages. And for the next 30 minutes, I just started getting messages of what I was supposed to do, where I was supposed to go. And that was what, that plus, oh, I love everybody anyway. Maybe seminary is the answer. And the short version is that yes, it was the answer, but of course not how I thought it was. I was like, I'm gonna go to seminary and I'm gonna fix myself. And I'm gonna bring my light to other people and help them fix themselves. And of course, I found out that's not how it works. It's a daily journey. I wake up every morning and decide to forgive myself. I go through the day and decide to forgive myself. And what I do now is help people understand that it is a journey and it's okay. And, we don't get fixed. We just are constantly working on ourselves.
It's the term that Dr. J uses about being stretched, right? It's like, anything that you stretch, muscles, anything, it's going to have an expansion and a contraction. And I think it's really what life is about, and when you're growing, you're also feeling and you're also, obviously having a good day or not so good day, right? And it's allowing that just to be present with it, and be okay with what is. And I,
Accepting. Oh, acceptance. Boy, that's a
yeah.
doozy. Yeah.
And surrender. That's
Yes.
not always an easy one.
No.
That's an amazing story. And I know that trees are so incredibly wise. And, their network, I don't think most people realize that they have a whole system going on. And when cut down a tree, you're really affecting an entire network of communicators.
Yep.
And it's really quite amazing.
Yep.
So, let's touch on your military stuff, for a minute, because I know that, most people that would meet you would be very surprised that you said that you have this combat veteran title. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, how does ministry, military, mom, all those things, what is that really, how does that all come together?
The military, I never thought if you had talked to me in like college or high school and been like, so you're gonna go into the military, I'd be like, ha, no. But I was on my way into work in New York City when 9/11 happened, when the World Trade Center was hit. Um, and I saw the aftermath right after the first plane hit. We were on Route 3 eastbound going to New York City, and there's no words to describe what that's like. When we were in the bus, people's phones were ringing. Somebody said, "Oh, a plane hit the tower. What?" And we all thought it was like a Cessna, like a little plane. Nobody knew what was really going on. And when we got close to the towers, because you could see the towers from the highway at that point, you could see, there's no other way to say it. It was a plane-shaped hole in the top of the tower. It was like a big slash and then a big hole with smoke just pouring out and then another big slash. And everybody just knew that this was not a Cessna that had hit the towers. And right after that, they had sealed off the Lincoln Tunnel. So they sealed off the tunnel and they routed all the buses back to go westbound back into Jersey. And there's a trestle system over there with the tunnel. So you got to go kind of underground, you go under. And while we were being rerouted, when we came back out and it was just nothing but smoke and debris. And the first tower had fallen. And the bus went crazy. And everybody was like, what's going on? Because when you live in North Jersey and work in New York City, everybody knows somebody who works in the towers and so it was like, you can't even conceive of it. And in fact, we weren't even sure at first because the air was so thick with smoke, you couldn't actually even see at first. And as we got a little further away, going further westbound, we could see there was only one tower standing. And it was not long after that the second tower fell. And I just felt looking at that plane-shaped hole, like I gotta do something. I have to do something. I just felt compelled. And my grandfather had been in the Navy, and I was like, well, I mean, I guess this is when you do those kind of things. And 3 weeks after the towers were hit, when I could get back into my office, get back into the city, I went to the Navy recruiter's office, which was over ground zero. And 3 weeks later, it was still smoking. It was still smoking from the jet fuel, from all the stuff. And I said, I want to do my part. I want to join up. And that's when they had me take a bunch of tests. And the short version is that I became a naval flight officer, which is like a backseater, like Goose from Top Gun, is what I always tell people, but in a different aircraft. I was a naval flight officer for the E-2C Hawkeye, which is a carrier-based aircraft. And I was in the Navy for 8 years active duty and 13 years reserve. and I retired as lieutenant commander. And I always say that it was the most amazing and most horrible thing that I've ever done. And when people ask me if I would do it again, I say, I don't know. I don't know. I learned invaluable lessons about life, about myself, about my own limits, about other people. But it was, now I'm a pacifist. I mean, I'm a pacifist. I absolutely believe we do not need to kill other human beings to go forward in this world. I believe that we really can figure it all out, and war happens when people just can't talk and figure it out. So
Yeah.
that's the reason why I'm very much about getting more female identifying people in power, because all the studies show us that female-led countries and provinces, localities have better economic outcomes, better health outcomes, overall just more prosperous and better for the people in those areas. So I really believe that the more women we get in power, the less war we'll see. And I'm not saying that, whenever I say this, people are like, oh, you're saying, women aren't violent, women don't wage war. And I'm like, well, the science tells us not as much, not anywhere near as much. So,
They
yeah.
they also did a study and they said the crime rate is down the most on Mother's Day. So what
Yes.
does that tell us?
All the mothers are the ones committing crimes and they're busy having brunch.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Hilarious. Hilarious. Well, no, maybe it's because all the guys are busy,
Exactly. Yeah.
out their mothers or
Yes.
doing something kind for a woman or mother in their life.
Yes. Yes.
Could
Yes.
be that, yes. Yes, and I think that, what's really interesting about the fact that, we live in a climate where there's so much divisiveness. And it's actually a moment when it wakes a lot of people up, just like what you were describing, to see so much devastation and see so much chaos that it calls us to want to do something. And we hope that it will actually be something that propels us to do something good in the community. And so, for people that are watching this and listening to you, what would you say to someone that is seeking this path of ministry, or even, was nudged in a way and looking for, a path? What would you say to them right now?
First of all, I'm a little biased because I'd be like, check out the new seminary for interfaith studies. Um, I
Mhm.
mean, obviously, yes, do that. I think for me, visiting different places of worship helps. If unless maybe you have been going to a Baptist church your whole life and you know that you want to become clergy in the Baptist faith, you might know that. But if you don't know, visiting different places, what I do is I go to a different place of worship, 4 different places of worship over the course of a month. So I go to a Buddhist temple, I go to synagogue, and then 2 different Christian congregations. And I'm not saying there's more than that, obviously, but what I'm saying is to find a little bit of variety in your spiritual practice. If you've never meditated and you think you can't meditate, you can. Well, I always tell people a very simple, because meditation is where a lot of things come to us, right? Where a lot of it comes to us. And for people who don't know where to even start with meditation, what I tell them is count to 100. Start counting to 100 and observe what your mind does while you're counting to 100. And you'll notice that you kind of forget where you were. You get off the count, start from one again. And it's a way of realizing that your consciousness is separate from who you are. There's your body, mind, and soul, and then there's your consciousness. Your consciousness does not have to get pulled down by the body, mind, soul stuff. It can always be counting while the rest of your system does other things. And just having that awareness of like, I'm focusing on this counting and I'm observing what my body and my mind and my spirit are doing, it can sometimes make people go, oh, there is more to this. And that alone makes them want to study more about it, right? Get into seminary, figure out how does this whole human system work? It's really interesting, right? The other thing I tell people is imagine that your mind is a train station and there's lots of trains coming in and out. Be at that train station and watch the trains coming in and out, but don't actually get on any of the trains. Just observe them and observe your thoughts. Your thoughts are the trains. And if you get on the train and you realize it, it's okay. Don't judge yourself. Don't get mad. Just get back, get off the train and stay at the station and watch those train thoughts going back and forth, back and forth. And the more you can separate yourself from your thoughts, the more you realize I am an entity unto myself and my thoughts are not who I am.
Yes, very powerful, very powerful. And a lot of us, walk around with many thoughts, and some of them are not even ours. Like you think about how much indoctrination happens from media, or just, in I live in New York City, so if you walk down the street, you can hear like five different conversations and all kinds of things happening. And I think having that moment of stillness is so important for everyone to just take, even if it's 5 minutes, just to take 5 minutes to stop and
100%.
and be quiet.
Yep.
That's really, really cool. And I wanted to ask you just a bit about, because I know you're also in the chaplaincy program. And so tell the audience a little bit about that, that journey for you, and what that looks like.
So the reason I love the idea of chaplaincy and why I really was excited about getting to the chaplaincy program is that I feel like it combines, because I was an activist, a full-time activist for 7 years. I feel like it combines that spirit of activism, that community support, and advocacy with ministry. So it's like taking spirituality and bringing it into the community to help support any way I can. Personally, I want to be a prison chaplain. I want to volunteer in prisons because that comes back to loving everybody. I believe that there's a chance for everybody, and everybody is redeemable, and that there is a chance to love oneself and other people always. So I want to try prison chaplaincy so I can really, first of all, see if I want to do that. Right, I've been wanting to do it for so long. I want to actually experience it and be there in that space. Um, but just to go into a place and give love where there's not historically been a lot of love.
Mhm.
Our prison system in this country is it's a for-profit enterprise, and the people in those prisons and in the system a lot of times are not really cared for.
Yeah.
And it's not even always normal to have a chaplain in prisons, and it should be. So I just want to bring some caring and love into that environment and really help people see who they can be.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a beautiful mission to have, and I'm sure you'll do great with it. And it's, I recently went and did a cultural performance in a prison upstate, and yeah, and it was a men's program, and I could feel how much they all needed a hug, and of course I couldn't, for obvious reasons, wasn't allowed to do that, but I sent it out energetically as the best I could, and I really walked away with each and every one of them on my heart, just to feel like, wow, I hope I made a little bit, teeny little bit of a difference for them today. And you're right. I mean, it's a very neglected population, and a system that's designed for people to just get stuck in.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
And Reiki also, I want to bring Reiki into prison. So,
mm,
doing Reiki was one of those things that I was doing it before I realized I was doing it. I
mhm.
had always felt energy so
Yeah.
strongly from other people, for other people, giving, wanting to help and sending energy, not even realizing that's what I was doing until I started actually getting Reiki training. And I'm like, I've been kind of doing this already. But having more a structure around it and words. And so I'm a Reiki level 2 working on my master right now. So I love doing Reiki. I really like that energy exchange and helping people heal, unblocking chakras, all that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, before we go, I ask all of my guests if you would go into your heart space right now and just share whatever comes through, and what would be something that you'd want to share with this audience at this time.
Take my glasses off for this. Joy is resistance. Joy is revolutionary. And I feel that with the way everything is happening right now in our world, I think some people almost feel bad about embracing some joy and happiness sometimes, right? Because there's so much devastation going on. But that in and of itself can be so life changing, not just for you, but for other people. Embrace your joy, find the little things that give you that joy and share them. If you're on social media, put it out there and don't worry about what other people will say, because when you're feeling that joy and that love, it's contagious. put it out there. Don't worry about the people that are going to say things that you don't want to hear, because that's not who you're trying to reach anyway. You will inspire people. You will have make somebody else go, it is okay to feel joy. It's okay to post silly, funny stuff that makes me happy. Happiness is an underrated quality and emotion, and we need it so badly right now. So embrace your joy, embrace your happiness, and share it, and that will make a difference.
What a beautiful message to leave this talk with. And thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me. And
Having
you
me.
know, for all of you watching us right now, you know, please come visit us at the Interfaith Temple. You know, Maeve and Eve will be doing some more programming in the fall. And, you know, as we go through, you know, this process, reach out anytime and ask questions, you know, let us know what's on your minds. And, you know, with that, I'll say thank you and blessings and, you know, just stay in joy. Stay in joy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.